Today we're going to be working on area and perimeter of a parallelogram. Now, pretty sure you've seen this before in other grades and possibly your current grade. Now, parallelograms, I want you to think of it as like a rectangle, but slightly slanted. All right, we push that little rectangle over so it's kind of on its side. Okay, and we're going to figure out the area and the perimeter. So area, the equation is area equals b times h, where b is base and h is height. So it's basically area equals base times height. And what is the base? What is the height? Look at this picture on the right. The base, I want you to think of as the bottom. So what is the bottom part? What's that number? If you said 2, that's correct, right? It's the bottom. Now, how tall is the parallelogram? I have two numbers now, the 6 and the 5. Now, if I say 6, because, it's part of the actual parallelogram, you might think it's right, but unfortunately it's not, because it is measuring the slant. It's not telling me how tall it is or how high it is. But look at the 5. What it did is it calculated the distance from the top to the bottom. Okay? That's what the dotted line is for. It's showing me the actual height. If you could imagine, if you were standing straight up, that would be your height. But if you leaned over, how tall would you be? You wouldn't be your height, it wouldn't be 5 foot something. It'd be a little smaller because I'm measuring from the bottom to the top. So that is the height right here. And what do we do with these two numbers? Area, we multiply them together. Okay? So if you look right here, area equals base times height. What's my base? 2. What's my height? 5. I multiply them together and I get 10 inches squared. Okay? Now, perimeter. How do I find perimeter? Same thing as before. It's whatever's on the outside. We're walking on the outside. Okay? So, if you started here, we know this is 2 inches because it says 2 inches. But what's this distance right here? It's not the 5. 5 is going straight up and down. So what number could this be? If you said 6, that would be correct. Remember, parallelograms, opposite sides are the same. And with that knowledge, what would this one be? If you said 2, you're correct. It's on the opposite side of the parallelogram. And we know the side says 6. So how would I do it? I could do this equation that you learned from yesterday, or you can just do your same old perimeter equals adding all the outsides. So 2 plus 6 plus 2 plus 6. And if we added that all up, we would get 2 plus 6, 8, plus 2 is 10, plus 6 is 16. So you would know your answer is 16. And look, right here, 16, 16. 16 inches. All right, now I'm going to explore this a little further. Look over here. It's a parallelogram. As I said, it's like a slanted rectangle. And now why do I say that? Now, imagine this parallelogram. It has the same area, the same formula as a rectangle. But instead of base times height, we had length times width. And I'm going to show you that it's exactly the same thing. So look right here. It's not a perfect rectangle, but what happens if I just take this piece, cut it off, and brought it over here? see what happens. It's going straight up and down. It's making a right angle. Looks like a rectangle, kind of, right? To take this away. So let's see what happens if I take it away. Doesn't this look more like a rectangle? Now you see this slight slant. Let's see if I can erase that. And what do we have? A rectangle. So that's what's happening. I'm taking a parallelogram and I make it into a rectangle. So that's where my base and height are, okay? So again, this is my base, my B, and my height. Base times height, okay? Let me show you that parallelogram one more time. So this shape, if I move things around, will look like a rectangle. So if I have my height, which is this, let me make it clear. This part, and my base, which is this part, I will know all the information and I can find the area and perimeter. So let's try some examples. This is problem 5 and 6 on your homework. All right. So again, I have to find area and perimeter, and I've given these numbers. Okay. First, before you do anything, you want to make sure you know the sides of all the parallelograms. So remember, this slant, what number should it be? If you said 6, you're correct. The opposite sides are the same. So I'm going to put 6 in here. And what would be the top? The same length as the top. If you said 17, you are correct. Now I have all this information. What is my height? If you remember, this would be your height. Another way to know if it's your height is if it makes the right angle. Just like in our parallelogram turning into a rectangle, our height makes a right angle. So what are my two numbers I'm going to multiply? If you said 4 times 17, you are correct, because I'm taking my height and my base bottom, okay? If I multiply them, 4 times 7, 32, 4 times 1, 4, so I would have 72. Perimeter, how do I find perimeter? Remember, I'm just adding the outside numbers of the parallelogram, not the height. I'm going to add 17 plus 6 plus 17 plus 6. Remember, I am not adding the height, the 4. This dotted line means it's invisible, okay? It's not really there on this parallelogram. We're only measuring the sides of the parallelogram. And if I add it all up, what do I get? 46. Okay. Now look at this one. Different shape, right? It's a parallelogram, but it's on its side. And we could still do the same thing. If it helps you, you might want to turn the paper around, or just look at it as it is. So, before I do anything again, fill out the boxes. What would this length be? I'm looking at the opposite side, which is 15. So I would write 15. What matches with this slanted side? If you said 13, you're correct. Now I got all my outsides. Now what is my base and height? This one's slightly trickier, but if you can see, right here is your base and your height. Remember when I said it makes a right angle? You know this is going to be your height, and this is going to be your base. Just to show you, look at this. We have our parallelogram, and if you're not sure that it's the same thing, here you go. And look at this. I'm going to rotate it, and it looks exactly like our regular parallelogram on number 5. My base would be 15, my height would be 12. Okay? So if you see the right angle, you know that's your height, and the bottom part is your base. Let me flip it over again. See how it's the same? And there we go. Okay. So now let's go over the answers. How do I find area? Base times height. So 12. Area equals 12 times 15. Put that in a calculator. You will get area equals 180. Perimeter, I'm going to add the outside lines, okay? The lines of the parallelogram. So you should be counting what I've just highlighted, okay? So this right here, right here, and right here. I'm walking on the outside. So if we're walking on the outside, what do we get? Say we start over here. So I would have 15 plus 13, because I'm walking up here. I'm going to go straight down. What is that? Plus 15. And then this slant, which is 13, not 12. Okay? Remember, I'm walking on the outside dark lines. If I add that up, you would get perimeter equals 56. Okay. And that's mainly the idea with the homework. Figuring out the base and the height. Even though it's given to you, you have to recognize it. Okay? Even if it's up and down or left and right. What is my base? What is my height? That is what you're looking for. Okay? And perimeter, fill in the boxes. I've already shown you the fill in the boxes. I want you to do that first. Then do the area and perimeter, just like yesterday's work. Okay?